what I don't want to happen is to either you or your loved ones be wiped out by medical bills or long-term care expenses. And so that's a real threat. So we need to pay attention to this. And what I want to do is start with a story. This is a personal story. I think for a lot of us, our parents are our teachers, and they set good examples or not so good examples, and we follow the examples of our parents. It's kind of sobering to realize as a parent that my kids didn't really listen to what I said, but they copied me and they did what I do, or whatever. I didn't say that quite right, you know. But you take on the habits of your parents. And so for me, it's no different. My father was a wonderful teacher, and I want to introduce you to my father. Here he is in his late 60s, and he was pole vaulting. In fact, he held the world record for pole vaulters in their 60s and 70s. And so that was the great example. He was vital, he was healthy, he was enjoying life. That was the good example. The not so good example was that he kept jumping in his late 70s, and so one day he misses the pit and he breaks his hip. And so he's laid up for about 6 months, and all of us in the family were really discouraged to see how rapid his physical decline was. And right in front of us was an example of use it or lose it. And when I started looking into this, there's a lot of scientific research which backs this up. Is that if you don't use your body, it just says, well, you don't need me, and it shuts down. So the example of use it or lose it, but then what happened after his physical decline, his mental decline came fairly rapidly after that. And so in his later years, he had fairly advanced dementia or Alzheimer's, it doesn't really matter. And so what that did for me is it made me really scared about getting Alzheimer's in my later years. And I think a lot of us have older relatives. I mean, I'm just curious to see how many have older relatives that have either heart disease or cancer or diabetes or osteoporosis. I mean, you see that and it's scary. It makes you think, I don't want to have that happen to me. And so that's what my father's story did to me, is that I didn't want to develop Alzheimer's or dementia. And I looked into it, and it turns out there's an awful lot you can do to mitigate, prevent, or delay Alzheimer's and dementia. And actually, there's a lot you can do for all of the debilitating diseases in our later years, whether it's heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, cancer, Alzheimer's. There's an awful lot you can do to reduce the odds. And so then I had a positive thing to do about it rather than just worry about it. And so I channeled that fear into some energy to make some changes in my life. And that's what I'd encourage you to do. The other thing I learned from my father is take up a different sport. To be jumping in your 70s is crazy.